GPT 5.6 Soul is out. This changed the way that I use AI. This channel is not about hype, it's about finding the best way to use AI to empower you, to augment your abilities. Now, I've been using this AI for just a couple of days. There is something incredible about it. This is, if you look at the landscape, this is something that is at this similar level of Fable 5. Now, it doesn't matter if you like one or more or the other, but what is clear is that both of them are a new level, new class of AI. This is something that we don't have in the open source environment. The previous models, we had equivalent in a way or another to open source model, but these latest one, they do something that is new. I don't care that much about those benchmarks, just numbers. And I don't care much also about those tests that just show you a little bit of, yeah, this is what it's capable of doing, but the real change is where you apply those models in real work. Do they make the difference or not? Because in most of the time, from my experience, you can go around with those open source models without too much problem. Only in specific scenario, you see that there is a need for maybe this extremely large model. Now, this is what I did. I bought a new computer. This new computer runs with the RTX 5090. This is an NVIDIA card that I bought it to run local model. But if you know me, I wouldn't go with Windows, and therefore I went with Linux. Now, moving from macOS to Linux, there is a challenge, okay? It's not so obvious. I'm gonna talk in the future video about the model, the hardware, and the Linux experience itself. But one of the challenges that I had with this computer is to make recognizing work with hardware that I already have. I have two hardwares from Elgato. One is the Stream Deck that I use to control the system, and then I use the Elgato teleprompter. This hardware, I already knew it was not compatible, not for hardware, not for software, with Linux. Through my research, I discovered that there are people managing to make it work with Linux. The teleprompter for me is pretty important because I can see the level of the microphone, if I'm recording or not. I can choose what kind of screen I can share, so I'm aware about what I'm sharing on the recording. So for me, it's important to have it in front of me. I plugged it to this new computer, and I asked to my local model, Qwen 3.6 27 billion, to figure it out and make it work. It couldn't, no way. It would turn on, so the power was there, so the system is on, but was not recognized by the computer. Then I gave it to Minimax M3, same, couldn't find the solution. Then I gave it to GLM 5.2, couldn't find the solution. That day, fortunately, OpenAI GPT 5.6 Soul came out, and I said, okay, this is the moment to use and see if actually it can do something amazing or not. I gave to this model this challenge, and it fixed it. So I saw the monitor turning on, I see the screen, so the computer recognized it, but it didn't stop working. So I saw this model carry on working. What is it doing? And then it finished, it said, I created a teleprompter software, I put the icon on your desktop, so you now have the teleprompter and the software working. That was unexpected. So I opened this software, opened up, and it was really good. I had teleprompter software that, again, I'm not interested in using it, but nevertheless, it fixed the entire problem, not just part of the problem. Also, this teleprompter, I opened to have a look, and actually it's really good, usable. But there were two elements missing in this software. One was you could hide the settings, but there was no clear way how to bring them back. I asked to create an icon that I could turn on off the settings. The other thing that was missing was the ability to change the width of the text. So when you work with the teleprompter, what you want is the text is within the width of the lens. In the interface, there were already some faders that would do some adjustment. So all I needed is to add a new fader with that functionality. I went back and I wrote this, but I didn't ask to GPT 5.6 Soul to fix it. I asked to Qwen 3.6 27 billion to fix it. And it did. That is the lesson. that this model is good for fixing high-level problem, to architect the structure of a software, to give the first big imprint to the software. But then you can just delegate. So if you think in those terms, you don't need even a subscription with OpenAI, unless you use really often this. That most of the time, you just need one-off action that fix your system. If you don't use the AI too much, if you're not power user, so you can just have an API, the moment that you need to solve a problem that is unsolvable with what you have, then you ask the model, fix the problem, and you carry on. If you are a power user, therefore you find those kind of challenges, almost once a day or twice a day, then even a $20 subscription is enough. And if you think about this, you have this senior engineer, really, really good, for $20 a month. I mean, it's a pretty good deal. So why we shouldn't go 100% with OpenAI or Anthropic and so on? Because there is one challenge that we need to consider. This is not a small one. This is a serious problem. I don't know if you've been using GPT 5.5 in the last few weeks. I think in the last couple of weeks, 10 days, couple of weeks, what I noticed, the model was really not good anymore. Suddenly, it's become like an idiot. Not that was a genius before, but it was not performing as before. I switched to GLM 5.2 and it was there working amazingly. I really like that model. But what was annoying, this degrading of a model, that some people are already saying that OpenAI changed some settings, so this Soul model is not as powerful as it was when it was launched. And that is the upsetting part. Now you have a system that you count on, you build around, and then they change the parameter and then, it doesn't work in the way that it used to. So what is the challenge if you analyze properly? Is there, when you build a system, you have a threshold to which you select the model. Can this model stay above the threshold? Is intelligent enough? Can answer in a way that is predictable, therefore I can trust it to do this job. Because if the moment it doesn't reach the threshold, is below the threshold, then I don't need it. It's not good enough. So now, in my case, I saw GPT 5.5 moving from above the threshold to below the threshold, without them telling me that this is something that they were doing. That is the problem. Now, if you run something locally, you know that the model is there, okay, it's fixed. It's if it's above the threshold, it stays above the threshold. It's not going to change. Okay, that is so important. So when you have a business, you optimize for this model. You want to guarantee to your clients, to whatever work you are doing, that your output is predictable at a specific quality. And the cost is predictable at specific quality. Now, we already know that the price of those models are getting higher and higher, that they are subsidized those tokens to us. So at one point, they need to go higher with price. The whole thing is completely unstable. If you run a business, it's much better to have a business plan where you put down the cost of the hardware, and then you know when you're gonna recoup these costs. And then you have a model that changes the moment that you want to change it. So you optimize for it, and probably you can keep it for months. Why I'm saying for months and not years? Because the AI is going so fast that at one point it will make sense for you to change the model anyway, but at your condition, after you test it, when you are sure that it stays above the threshold. And that is how we need to work. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, all of them show us that we can't trust them on this. They are not here for us. They don't care enough about what we build with these models. For them, it's a business, and they are just taking things out of us, money, knowledge, and so on. They are not building a system that is stable enough for us to build our own business. And that is the problem. The new strategy is this one, okay? It's pretty simple. Do as much as possible on something that you own, you control, that you can predict the behavior. And then on those moments, that those models that you have cannot do the work, delegate for a short time to something bigger, so the cost is short, the dependency is short, you get the output, you move away. This hybrid way of working is become more and more clear that it's important to have and create an unbalanced, a biased way towards something that you control. I'm going to share more about how I use this local model. Now I have two different hardware for AI. I got the equivalent of DGX Spark. This is 128 gigabyte of unified memory. So a lot of memory to run a lot of different kind of models. So the bandwidth is smaller and therefore the token generation is lower. Now this new hardware, RTX 5090, has less memory, 32 gigabyte. So therefore you can only load really a few good but small models. But he has a really massive bandwidth, like 6 times the other, I believe. Because the other has a 270 something, and this one has 1700 something. The speed of which this model generates tokens is incredible. I'm gonna explain about this kind of model, which machine is better for the other, because I have two kind of different machine. Both of them are good. I'm gonna keep them both, and there is a reason, a special reason that I'm gonna talk about why. Actually, unfortunately, we are gonna be collectors of different hardware. I'm gonna tell you now. Okay, we are gonna get a collector of different hardware because on this RTX 5090 I can run one model. Sorry, not just one model and one instance. So meaning there is one agent, but I need a swarm of AI, and that is the challenge. While you might have one agent that is extremely fast that works for you, and this is the machine for it, okay, I also need in the background a lot of smaller agents maybe, or a lot of different agents that are working in parallel. And the other machine is perfect for this. This is the strategy that I have. I'm going to experiment. So again, follow this channel if you want to know more. There is a community of almost 2,000 people now that we are building together. We are learning from each other. We are sharing our architecture. And if you're interested in this kind of discussion, we have calls every single day of the week. If you're interested to this content, like and subscribe, watch the next video, and see you on Discord. Ciao.